I don't miss going to the gym unless I'm like I have to have like serious fever or chills, or it'd have to be something where, um, life just got in the way, like work. Sometimes work would get in the way if I stayed really late, and then I'd have to sleep the next day, and then I'd be a little cranky because I didn't get to work out. But
Right.
if I can squeeze in a 20-minute workout, then I'll hit back, chest, and legs in 15 minutes because I'll do body weight stuff. I'll do pull ups, drop down, do push ups, and then do body weight squats. And you can bang out like a good 10 to 15 sets in 10 minutes doing that. I call it prison style workout.
I mean, it's a realistic workout.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know in the job anytime you're gonna bench press 300 pounds.
You look
Um,
like you can bench 300 pounds.
so I just got back. I just got back to it. I took off like 4 years because I was having tendon problems, and I've had 10 surgeries, knees, shoulders, wrists,
Oh my God.
and hands. Some of it's from the job, some of it's from sports, some of it's from motorcycle racing crashes. Um, None of it I would take back.
What sport did you play?
I wrestled and played football, and then later in my life, I found lacrosse. So I know you guys know what the lacrosse is all about up there.
Big lacrosse county. These two counties that I live in, Suffolk and Nassau, huge with lacrosse. Big, big
Oh,
on Long Island.
I love it. It's
And wrestling too is
yeah,
big over here too.
yeah. Lacrosse was, it's a spiritual game. It's got ancient roots, and when I came into it, I was taught to respect the game like no other sport I've ever participated in. It was like I'm not gonna kid you, man. I got cold chills right now thinking about it. It's pure,
Did you
and it,
play college also?
no, but it was funny because when I was playing in a men's league, these guys were all like, "Where'd you play in college?" I was like, "I've never played before." They're like, "Man, you're ruthless with that long pole." So, I was a deep hole. So, I mean, I would, you know, I played aggressive like I played football and like I wrestled. I mean, I wasn't really familiar with all the rules, and so I sometimes maybe go a little bit overboard. But
Yeah.
I was like, "You're not coming in my house. I mean, this is my land right here." But God, it was a great game. I
What
loved it.
weight did you wrestle at?
Start. This is the funny part. All right, so I started high school at 135, and when I graduated from high school, I was 260.
Oh my
So
God.
yeah, and so I guess sophomore year, I think it was 142 maybe, and then I went to 167, and then I hit the weights really hard, and I was a nose guard in football. So like my standard playing weight was like 185, and then I got with the strength coach and I started piling it on, and I mean, I exploded. It wasn't,
Was this in the 90s?
yeah,
Was he giving
yeah.
you some special sauce too?
No, that's the thing, and I actually got questioned on that. You
Yeah.
know, my coach called me in. He's like, "What's going on?" I said, "You can call my dad, ask him how much milk he's buying a week." So I started eating right. I started sleeping a lot, doing what I was supposed to do, and I was probably the only guy that I knew in my football team that after practice I would go in and hit the weights again. So
Yeah, I could tell from your shoulders, man. I could tell that you're powerful, powerful dude.
it saved me a lot during crashes. Like I had a I had a really bad head-on pursuit crash during a pursuit, and that 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 was pretty bad deal. It was the first generation airbags, so I kind of feel like I know what it was like to get hit by Mike Tyson. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it split my lips and burnt my face, and I was able to get out and everything, but all that stuff I did, preparing my body, it served me well during my police career.
How many times were you in accidents or hospitalized for anything?
Um, Probably
That's
four
four
or
too
five.
many. Yeah,
Yeah,
four too many.
I think my worst was the crash during the pursuit was pretty bad. That was head on. I lost consciousness for a little bit after that, and then when you're young, you do all kinds of stuff, and I ended up. I thought I'd got shot in the face because of the flash from the airbag, and
Oh
there was
my
smoke
God.
in the cabin, and so I kicked the door open and I go chase this guy. Well, next thing I know, I wake up and one of our one of our guys, a senior guy, is carrying me like I'm a kid, and he lays me on the hood of the car, and I wake up, and he's like, "Do you know what happened?" And I said, "I have no idea." And then I ended up remembering it. But what I had done is I jumped 2 fences chasing the guy that bailed from the stolen car, and then something happened. I passed out in this backyard. Thank God somebody found me.
Yeah, yeah.
But that was probably one of the worst ones. And another one was I was in a fight, and I picked a guy up and I had him up on my shoulders. We traded a lot of punches,
This is in
and
Ohio.
yeah. So I grabbed this guy and I pick him up and I'm gonna finish him. Like, this is my finishing move, right? So I pick him up and I dive down to the ground. I'm like, he is not going to fight after this. Well, my head hit one of those big blue mailboxes that's concreted into the ground,
Yeah.
and I had a motorcycle helmet on, so it hit that, and it actually knocked my eyes two different directions. So at that point, I just crawled on top of him and bear hugged him and waited till the troops got there. But they got there. The lieutenant gets there. He asks me if I'm okay. I was like, "Yes, sir. I'm fine. I'm fine." I'm looking at him. He's like, "Look at my finger." He's like doing the concussion
Horizontal gaze and
protocol.
stagnus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, "Look at my finger." I was like, "I am." He's like, "No, you're not." I was like, "Yeah, I swear I am." He's like, "Your eyes are going two different directions. You got to
Is
get us to
that?
the
I think that's a
hospital."
sign of a concussion, right?
Oh, it was. Yeah, and I've had a bunch
Yeah.
of those. So.
Did you used to do a bunch of? I know you were a motor cop. Did
Hmm.
you do a bunch of DWIs in your day?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did a bunch of DWIs when I worked midnights too, and I knew one of the things I know is that if they were in a car accident, that's a defense because they could have a concussion.
Right.
So you're not supposed to do the the HGN.
Right.
So you probably have had a couple of concussions.
We're right about 12 or 13. Well, actually, I just had my 13th, and I'm trying to think which one it was. I'm trying to remember how it happened. I remember it was like a, this is ridiculous. It was like a charity go-kart race with cops. And I go through this corner, and, I mean, like, the competitive side comes out in all of us. It was
Of
opposing
course.
teams. And I go through this corner, and I got this cart sideways, and it's hopping sideways. And all of a sudden, I just get blasted from the side. Well, one of the guys behind me just blew the corner and went straight through the grass and T-boned me. And it's funny though, like the mindset you have as a cop. The first thing I did was stomp on the gas and take off.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't even think about getting hit. I was like, okay, that was a hell of a collision. I'm out. And I stepped on the gas and took off and carried on. It wasn't until it was over, I got back in the pits where I was like, man, I got pasted. you know, I'm not feeling 100% right now. But I don't know. It's a mindset you get in as a cop. Like, you can take a hit, but that doesn't mean you're out of the game. And that's
Yeah.
the way I always look at
Never
it.
never out of the game.
No, I mean, you're never going to quit. You can't. And that's kind of something that was bred into me. I grew up a cop's kid. My
Did you
dad was a
see
cop.
that guy on Instagram who's like I'm gonna say close to 400 pounds in uniform, and he
On the
gets shot?
motorcycle.
No, not on a motorcycle. It was a car stop. It might not have been Ohio. It might have been Tennessee, but the guy was as big as a whale, and he uh, he gets shot by a woman.
I haven't seen
He
that one.
he ends up killing her, but at first when she first shoots him, he just kind of like lays down on the ground and he's like out of the fight. He just lays there, and this guy that I follow, Ink Monster, um, he posted like all of these really out of shape fat cops, and and I wrote in the comments, I was like, bro, that's kind of harsh, and he's like, and then someone responded back, not being able to do your job properly is what's really harsh. It's like these guys let themselves get so out of shape. Um, Not everyone's a sprinter, and not everyone's a power lifter. You need. I love that you really need all types. You need the guys that are going to kick in the door, and
Yep.
then you need the sprinters, and you need the canines, you need the highway guys, you need all types. You need them
Yep.
all. But everyone should be able to at least walk up a flight of stairs and not
I
be out of breath.
I agree with you. Like, people were talking years ago about, the mile and a half time, mile and a half time. I was like, when's the last time you ran a mile and a half? Like, you give me a guy that can 50-pound sandbag up 3 flights of stairs and do 25 push-ups, that's my
Yes.
guy.
Yeah.
I don't care if the guy can run a mile and a half. But when I'm laying on the ground, get my ass kicked, I want somebody that's going to come up those 3 flights of stairs and be ready to bring the pain.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's how I look at it.
Did you
I
ever train
want
any martial arts?
No, I did a little.
Box or anything?
Yeah, I did box a little bit, not competitively or anything, just like heavy bag workouts. I have really
You
short arms.
I was gonna say
So,
you say you didn't, but I think wrestling is the base of like all. If you wanted to create the perfect MMA fighter, you'd put a kid in wrestling
yep,
from kindergarten, and then have him wrestle through high school, and then have him train boxing and Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Like that
yep.
would be the ideal scenario. So you say no, but I imagine just from your wrestling and the little bit of boxing that you did, that had you more than enough confident to handle yourself in any situation.
It did. And whenever I fought a guy that was taller than me, we always ended up on the ground the same height.
Yep.
So, I mean, I knew I couldn't stand up and trade punches with a guy that was 6'5". So,
Yeah.
welcome to my world. We're going to be down low.
Yep.
And, I do a double leg takedown, take him down, and then go to work. Um,
Have you ever seen Daniel Cormier from the UFC,
yes.
the heavyweight champ? So he does this high crotch where he's dumped guys that were 6'5" when he fought before he fought in the UFC.
Mhm.
He's done that double leg high crotch, that single leg high crotch where he brings him up high and he dump. DC's not a tall guy; he's like
Right.
5'10". So he's fighting these guys that are 6'4", 6'3", 6'4". And I always loved when he did that move because I was like, "That's my move. That's my move."
Yeah, I'd always tell people would be like, "Man, why you take people to the ground all the time?" It's like we're all the same height.
Yeah,
When we're laying on the ground, man, it's like I am comfortable down there.
yeah, me too.
So,
Me too. Yeah, I'm very comfortable. I only wrestled in my 10th grade year and I wasn't very good, but I did jujitsu for 7 years and I just loved, after watching Hoist Gracie in 1993, I just loved jujitsu ever since. And I don't train anymore, but I've just been a fan of, and then I've been a fan of all grappling, but I've been a fan of all martial arts since I was a little boy, since, watching Bruce Lee and the Kung Fu
mhm,
flicks on Channel 11 on Saturday mornings. Um, I've been a fan forever. But then when I saw the UFC, I just became like, that was my sport that I fell in love with.
right.
And I saw Hoist taking on guys that were 260 and he was 160. And I was like, what style is that? I want to know what style is that. And I actually got to train with Hoist Gracie and I have some pictures of me rolling with him. And
That's an
it's like,
honor.
yeah, it really is an honor. Um, I had all three of my sons start wrestling in kindergarten, and one of them started in first grade because we had moved, in between there.
Mhm.
But I had all three of them wrestle, and I always tell parents that if you want to have your child be confident, have them wrestle because it doesn't matter if they're the smallest kid on the team or the biggest kid on the team. They always have confidence in themselves.
Yep.
There's no wrestlers on any team across the country that's getting bullied anywhere.
You're right. And I just had this discussion with a guy who's looking to get this kid into wrestling. And I said it's one of the best disciplines you can get in because at the end of the match, he has nobody to blame but himself.
Yep. There's
And
no
if he
team.
wants no, and if he wants to get better, he has to put the work in.
Yep.
And it teaches you all about yourself. You think of like if you're in a position you're about ready to get pinned, it's up to you to get out of it. Nobody's
Yep.
going to help you. No linebacker's going to come in and fill and just drill a guy. I mean, it's on you. And it's wrestling is life. You have good days, you have bad days. You got to think. You got to have strategy. You got to be in shape. You got to take care of yourself. You got to look forward. But yeah, just belief in yourself. I mean, wrestling is an awesome sport.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Once my kids graduated, I stopped watching because I spent so many years in the stands. But I will. I will occasionally look on a couple of videos here and there. I like watching all grappling sports, judo, wrestling, jujitsu. Every now and then, I'll just watch a quick clip, and I'll find myself getting sucked in. Um, Tell us a little bit about yourself. Did you grow up in Ohio, or
I
did
I did. My whole family came from Kentucky, and we were the first. I was the first one born in Ohio. Um,
you ever went back
Everybody,
to Kentucky?
yeah. I mean, it's across the river. I mean, I like where I live now. It's probably 4 or 5 miles from air. A lot of history there. Family history dating back to the like mid 1700s.
That's
So I've done a
cool.
lot of research, and I've gone to the places where the family farms used to be. The family cemeteries are still there. Um, but I mean, there's some really great people, and all the values I have today come from that. But putting the work in, uh, just the stuff I read from when I do ancestry.com searches, like, man, these people they were hard,
Yep.
and they fought for everything they had, and worked their butts off to get what they had. And I don't know, it's kind of inspirational when I really think about it, think about where I come from, and I'm
You
proud of that.
probably draw some of your work ethic from that lineage.
I do. It's like I draw it from my dad, who my dad learned it from his family, and they're all grew up on farms and were blue collar type workers, and I have a blue collar attitude. It's like
Are you retired, or are you still active duty?
I'm still active. So I transferred from a traffic unit into the wellness section, and that kind of happened after I. So it's a big involved story, but I was diagnosed with PTSD. I took a
Tell
survey.
tell if you don't mind, tell that involved story, because I there's people that can benefit from it.
Yeah, so I went through a in-service class where they did a survey. It was anonymous, taken on your phone, and I know probably 99% of the cops that will listen to this are like, yeah, I would never take a survey like that. And I was the same guy. Well, for some reason, I don't know why, I took the survey, and I took it and I answered honestly. So it comes back at lunchtime on our cell phones, and it says, yeah, you need to contact the stress center immediately. You're at high risk for suicide. And that was like being smacked in the face with a sledgehammer. I knew I wasn't 100%, but I thought, quote unquote, this is just part of the job, right? Because you've seen it your whole career when you came up. You saw old grumpy guys, and they were miserable and everything. You're like, oh, it's just part of the job.
Yep.
So I manned up, and I went to the stress center, and I sat down, and I was went through the whole procedure, and I was eventually diagnosed with PTSD. And the first thing I said was, how do I fix it? What do I do? And I had the proper attitude, because I was sick of living the life that I was living. And we went through 6 visits, or 6 appointments, or therapy sessions, whatever you want to call it, and I was out the other side. Now, when I tell people that doesn't mean you're 100%. There's no magic switch that just flips and you're like, yep, everything's great. Um, right now I'm in my 3rd year, going on, closing on 4 years outside of the end of my therapy sessions, and I life couldn't be better, man. I'm telling you. Like, I went from the basement to the penthouse, and everything changed. My life went 180 degrees different, and I've had people, like, I didn't come up with that. I had people that knew me prior to me going into therapy that told me, they're like, you are 180 degrees different. I don't see things the way I used to see things. I've so the major the major thing for me, and it probably sounds kind of ridiculous to some people, but sunsets, right? So I went 22 years with PTSD, right? I didn't know what it was. When I did eventually hear about it, I thought it was a joke. I'm like, that's an excuse, man. That's not what it really is. Um, so once it happened to me, I took it as serious as you could take it, and I want out. I want out of this. I'm going to fight from the ground and get back up on my feet, and let's go. So throughout my recovery process with PTSD, I used to road race motorcycles, and I quit because life was miserable, everything was miserable. So other side of this, I find flat track racing, which is a completely different discipline than road racing. So I have to learn flat track racing at the same time that I'm rebuilding my life after coming out from PTSD. And the two things paralleled each other. So I got motivated, and I live out in the country, so I built my own track. And I got 800 hours in this track. And I made this track out of a pasture. And in it, everything I did to recover from PTSD just transfers right over to what I was doing with digging in the dirt, rebuilding something, turning nothing into something beautiful. And one day I was coming around the track and I was constantly grading this thing, putting the right angle on it, a little bit
You
of
have
graining.
you have like 20 acres, right? Something like that. 22,
23, 23,
23
yeah.
acre. I knew it was
Yep.
something wild. Now, when you bought it, was the house in shambles, or did you have
No.
money? Like, did you put money from one house into this?
So I had two payments at the same time, which was really stressful. But this was like a deal that came along. The people were motivated to sell. We jumped on it, and that was like so I was in the middle of the whole PTSD thing, and I saw this house in the country, away from everybody. I'm like, I got to get this because this is going to make me okay. I was thinking it was geographical. Like
Yep.
my misery comes from this other place, but
Outside of you, out something outside
right.
of you.
It couldn't have been me, right? Couldn't have been me that was screwed up. But yeah, ultimately we know how it is. But that's the the I'll call it the horror of PTSD, man. It puts you in a place that nobody should ever be in. And I lived it. I lived it for
Was
22
it
years.
was it cumulative trauma, or was it one specific incident?
So
And you don't have to talk about the specific if it was a
believe me,
specific.
yeah, I'm open with this, and the reason I'm open with it is because it doesn't do anything but make it better for everybody else. I'm not going to hide something. Um, yeah, it was. There were a couple key things. One was an assault that occurred on me. I got hit in the head with a bottle, and my vest got ripped off. And these guys were trying to get my gun, and I suffered a really bad head injury, 12 staples in my scalp, really bad concussion. Uh, like I said, that mentioned the car crash, and then diving with the guy that I was fighting, and I hit my head into the mailbox. Plus, during my early days, I guess, um, loss of a good friend and a guy that I ran a beat with. That was devastating. Uh, and that's with all the other stuff that you see on a daily basis.
Yep.
The homicides, you name it, homicides, suicides, all that leaves a mark. And
Yep.
yeah, it ended up building up. Um, then there was another officer, a really good friend of mine. I just talked to him, and it was probably 45 minutes later he was dead, and I was at that scene. So it all built up over the years, and um,
You had mentioned Vernon Hanan
mhm,
I think he's from Baltimore, Maryland. I can never remember which one he's from, but he taught the opening session of trauma and law enforcement because I was there for peer support training, and he used the best um what's it called analogy. He used the best analogy for the trauma that Leo's face, and he used a sponge, and he was
yeah,
pouring a little bit of water in there, and I saw him, and it clicked for me. He's like, this sponge can hold X amount of water, but once it starts getting past that, it starts leaking out, and he's like, cumulative trauma is like that. It starts leaking out in your life.
you want to know what's funny when you say that is one of my first symptoms. It pretty much mirrors that, like to a T. So I bought a brand new truck, first new vehicle I'd ever owned in my life. This was 2015, and I'm headed home. I'm going through this beautiful valley that I always love coming through. My music's on, my moonroof's open, life is good. I come out of this valley and tears start flowing out of my eyes, and I'm not crying. There was nothing wrong, and that really that put me in a bit of a tailspin. And I thought, yeah, like there's no, it's not sinuses, nothing's in my eye, but it was everything that was built up in me for all those years. Like you say, the sponge had been saturated, and it was coming out, and it was my body telling me, look, you got to do something. Like this isn't right. And I mean, it really does mirror his sponge analogy, and the tears were coming out, but I wasn't crying. Like it just happened. And thank God for that sign, because that's one of the reasons I started really looking into things. So
Wow, that's a really, really powerful story. I saw a guy retire, and they were singing his song, and I got emotional. I got like choked up, and I'm like, I never get choked up for stuff like that. I'm like, what's going on? And I told my girl about it. I was like, I got like really choked up, and she's like, it's okay. You had a lot going on in your life, and we don't recognize that sometimes. Like it just hits you out of the blue.
yeah, yeah. The only time it used to hit me was during the funerals. You'd stand beside the grave, and you'd have the 21 gun salute and taps, and I would fight it like crazy. And the first time I saw the flag folded and given to the widow or the kids, man, it's like you start doing that breathing where you're like, oh, I got to keep it together. I got to keep it together. And man,
Mm-hmm.
no, there's nothing that hurts like that. And it doesn't matter if you know the person or not, because we all feel it.
Yep.
Every one of those funerals took something out of me. You know, it's
I
people.
try not to attend too many of those.
So I attended a lot of them because of the motorcycle stuff. We're doing the escorts. So
Yep.
I would, if I could possibly make one, I went out of state a lot of times to make them, simply out of respect. And it wasn't until I came on the other side of the PTSD stuff that I realized how much damage I was doing to myself by going to those. And probably the most damaging one, it was a real good indicator to me that I wasn't okay, was in Louisiana. And I saw a young boy, probably 6 years old, sitting by his father's casket. And I went through the receiving line. I never saw a look on a kid's face like that before. There was nothing inside that kid. And I did not know how to respond to that. And I walked outside and I let it go. And I was like, this is too much, man. This is like, I've seen way too many of these. But on our way home from Louisiana, a trooper in Kentucky was killed. So guess what? We go home, we regroup, and we go to that. And honored to do it. But anybody that's in it, you have to realize you're paying a price.
Secondary trauma.
Right. And you're doing the right thing. But you have to pay attention to that. There has to be some kind of outlet, because you can't hold all of that in. It's incredibly damaging. And I really feel that for guys that do the honor guard details. That's incredibly noble. I admire those guys for doing what they do, and they always look sharp. But those guys, they they suffer. You can't do that and not take something out of it.
Because there's
Um,
so much pain around the whole event.
yep,
It's almost impossible for some of that to not affect you.
absolutely. It's going to bleed over. I mean, you can feel that energy in the room, you know, and that sadness, and everybody's feeling it. And then you look at those guys, and they're showing zero emotion, and they're just doing a fantastic job, keeping themselves under control, paying their respects to the fallen. It's like, I mean, these guys they're sacrificing a lot. People don't look at it that way, but like I see things completely different now, and I admire those guys tremendously.
Then I know you told me that your therapist made you get up and speak.
Yeah, yeah, that was wow. I've been through some stuff, man, but that was probably one of the toughest ones ever. And I had about a 45-minute drive to get to where the event was, and I got about 2 exits away, and I jumped off the exit, and I was like, yeah, I can't do this. I can't do it. And I pulled into a parking lot, and I regrouped, and I had a real a real in-depth discussion with myself, and I thought, and what really got me going was, this isn't about you. This isn't about you at all. What can you do to make it better for everyone else? And yeah, I mean, that one,
Was that the first time you got up and spoke?
it was, and that was not the kind of guy that I was, not at all. How it happened, I don't know.
But you did it.
I did, and I was almost like on an autopilot. And the one thing I can take from it is I heard 2 rounds of applause during my talk. And when I got done, I sat down at a table with a group of people that are really close to me. I love every last one of them. And I said, "How was that?" And they're like, "That was amazing." And I said, "Did I really hear 2 rounds of applause?" And they're like, "Yeah, you did." I took a big deep breath, and I was like, "All right, man, let's do it again at some point." But yeah, I was exhausted from that. I was completely drained.
It is
When it,
emotionally draining.
yeah, I mean, it taxes you like any. You could run a half marathon and feel just as smoked as you are when you get done doing a talk like that, and it takes everything out of you.
How long was that talk for?
If you ask me, it felt like 4 hours. It was probably 20 minutes maybe, but
What'd you talk about?
my story, um, touched on my story. I There are times when, depending on the audience, I kind of have to temper it a little bit. Um, the regular person doesn't need to hear all the gory details, but when I'm talking with first responders, like when I'm speaking, I look at the crowd and I'm reading the crowd, and it gets emotional for me sometimes when I see myself and one of the people that I pick out of the crowd. I'm like, that person's suffering, and I'll make it a point to kind of look at them as I'm talking to them and try and reinforce, like, it's okay. Like, I'm up here showing emotion, and it's okay. Like, you'll get through this. And some of them have come to talk to me afterwards, but there's some that don't, and that one always bothers me, because I'm thinking, man, I wish they would have come and talked to me, because I want them to see that, you're not alone. And that's why I tell everybody that I've worked with through this stuff. I was like, dude, you do not have to do this alone. I will be there every single step of the way. I'll go to appointments with you. I'll talk to you at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'll come explain things to your spouse. Whatever you need. Like, this, legitimately, there's nothing out of bounds. I don't care. It's that important.
Do they have a peer support team in your agency?
Yes.
They do. Are you part of it or no?
Yes.
You are.
Yes.
How
Yes.
long have you been doing that?
Uh, Probably about 3 years now. And it was I met a wonderful person, the person that put on this survey. Um, she was incredible for me. I mean, like, literally the closest thing I can tell you to, like, an angel on earth, biggest heart in the world. Um, Ended up getting me into the recovery program, and then she mentioned to me, she's like, would you be willing to do this for other people? And I was thinking, I just want to take care of me now. And then I was like, this is not about you. Like, we have to further this along, because I came from a generation when this stuff didn't exist.
Yep.
So you have to further the cause. And if it hurts along the way, then it hurts along the way. But everything started to make sense, and everything had a value when I was told by somebody that I had saved someone's life by the work that I did. And yeah, I'm not afraid, or I'm not ashamed to tell you that I cried. I cried hard, because of all the things I've ever done. Football games, wrestling matches, motorcycle races that I won. I would take every single one of those memories and throw it away for having that. Be able to say that you saved somebody's life. Are you kidding me? There's nothing higher. There's nothing else that equals that. You've done the
The
greatest thing in the world.
the fulfillment that your heart must have felt afterwards, not pride, but just like filled with fulfillment. The only word I could think of is fulfillment.
That's a great word to use. It's like fulfillment, like everything, like you've closed that circle. Now it's you've achieved your ultimate goal. Like, and that's I say that all the time. It's like, what else do you want? Well, you know what else I want? I want another one,
Another one.
and I want another one after
DJ
that.
Khaled.
Right. I'm
Another one.
I'm once you do it, it's like I got to have another one. And I mean, are you going to be successful every time? No. But when you are, it is worth all those 3 a.m. calls. It is worth all that frustration for the person that's not getting it, that you spend hours and hours and hours and hours talking to and just working. And I've never worked this hard in my entire life, but I've never had a job that I've loved more. And man, I'm telling you, man, when it's successful, there's not like you could say, if you'll quit doing this, I'll give you $10 million, and I would tell you I don't need your money, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I don't need your money. Like, you can't buy what I get from this. You can't. There's no price you can put on it.
So how many years do you have in now, all total?
29 total.
29 total. You don't look that old, man.
I feel like it.
So have you thought about when you reach the end, however many more years that is, or months, whatever it is, have you thought about how you're going to continue the work after, and like what
Yeah.
your new identity is going to be?
Whatever I do, I'm going to end up doing it in a civilian role. I mean, I don't have the desire to work the streets anymore. I did my time. I paid my price. I have the scars on my body to prove it, scars on my brain to back that up as well. But what I do have is I have a lot of knowledge, experience, and wisdom that I've gained by making mistakes, and I've made a lot of them. And I've not been a good person. I've never been criminal, but I neglected a lot of people that I shouldn't have, and I've heard a lot of feelings that I was situations where I was wrong. Um, but I can't keep this to myself. It's something that if we can give this to younger generations and help them along, then you have to do that. So whatever I need to do to reach those people is what I'll do, and I'll go anywhere that I need to go to get it done.
How often are you hitting the road and speaking now?
So I haven't hit the road anywhere but just locally. I did a bunch of in-service classes with our own people. I've done two mental health symposiums. Did one in an area, suburban area, that I spoke to a group of citizens, not first responders. But I'm all about it. I'll go anywhere. It doesn't matter to me.
And I saw that man cave you have. It's
Right.
like a detached garage, all hooked up. It's like incredible. How far is it from the house?
It's about an eighth of a mile from the house.
An eighth of
So
a mile from the
yeah.
house, man. That is incredible.
So it's an Irish pub inside of a horse barn. So yeah, that was another therapy project.
How long did that take you to hook it up?
Man, I'm telling you, I worked like you wouldn't believe on that. I probably had that finished inside of 3 weeks,
Three
and it
weeks.
was yeah, and it was like it was the best therapy project I ever had. I had no idea what I was doing, but
You just watch videos and figured it out.
no, I didn't watch any videos. I just did it. I was like, you know what? Let's get it. And I looked at everything and I was thinking, this can't be that hard. And so I screwed up the rafters. And I,
Okay.
I had a friend of mine, an older guy, came over and he looked at me and he said, what did you do? I said, I don't know what I'm doing. So he showed me the right way to do it. So I took it all down and put it all back up. And
All
then
right. So you did have some help.
yeah, I mean, otherwise everything would have fallen in on top of me. But that's like how stubborn I am. Like, I was like, I don't care what happens. This is gonna get done, and I don't care if it's like, you know, whatever. It looks like a block of Legos or somebody stepped on it. It's like it's gonna get done. So yeah, it got finished, and then I started staining wood, and I built a bar in there, and then decorated it how I wanted to, and I did some painting. I like to paint, but I paint like World War II type bomber nose art stuff,
Yep.
and I can only like I've only been able to do it under like really bad conditions, like when my mom passed away, or when like a friend of mine would pass away. I would find myself painting, and it's like something I didn't really do consciously. I would just feel this desire to make something, and it kind of like put my emotions into it. And I'm sorry I did this now, but a lot of the stuff that I did, I would destroy after I did it, and I don't know why.
Wow.
But I did a lot
Wow.
of stuff I got rid of, and the psychology behind that, I don't know. But
Yeah, that's
there,
pretty that's it. That's definitely interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, so the thing that I heard is you dove into a couple of passion projects when you needed them, and that's so incredibly important. What are you passionate about now?
Uh, I would say number one is the whole wellness thing. Um, when anybody is in need, I'll throw myself 100% into it. But I'll tell you the best thing that I learned about that is when things start getting a little bit too heavy and I start feeling the strain, then I'll go to somebody else and I'll say, hey, you mind taking this over? Or we'll kind of do like tag team, and that helps both of us. But the group of people that I work with, we can all sense when somebody's not 100% with things.
I
So
was going to ask you, do you have any advice for people that want to try to avoid burning out, whatever role they're playing?
if you have a support network, use it. You know, meditate. I know, like to my age group, I'm 51 years old. Like we never embraced that meditation stuff. Meditation, yoga, God, whatever you do, don't stop working out, because I
Don't
don't care
stop.
what. No, there's nothing in the world. There's no drug in the world that can get you as right as a good workout. Those days when it's hard or it's cold and you don't want to go run or you don't want to lift, you have to do it, because
That's the
that's the
truth.
thing. That's the thing that's going to keep you right. And like, you can have the worst day in the world, but if you go in and you push it in a workout, that's success. And you're relieving all that stress. And now you've wrung out that sponge. Now you can absorb some more. You have resiliency, and just having a network to do it with is fantastic. I mean, even if you only have one person that you can really lean on, it's teamwork. And I mean, that's the method to preserving, your own sanity, because you can go down a rabbit hole and get sucked in, you know. But that's the thing. Like, I'll do whatever I need to do, but I won't sacrifice myself, because I've come too far and I fought
Good
too
for
hard to
you.
get here. And
Good for you, brother.
yeah, I appreciate that. I won't ever go back. I'll tell you that, never. But I will do everything in the world I can do to make sure nobody else suffers that way.
If um if someone could create a Netflix show around what you do, what would you make the show about?
Uh, it would probably start with somebody stuck in quicksand, and then a almost like a an angel coming and rescuing that person, and then coming out of that quicksand, it's nothing about straight up from there.
So it would
And
be like a fictionalized story.
yeah, definitely, because the stuff that I went through it seems like more fiction than it does reality. I mean, I'm
Did you ever
telling you,
think about writing all this stuff down?
yeah, that's in the works. So
Good.
I'm putting a book together, kind of between ideas of what I do with it. Where I started is basically where I'm going, because I grew up a policeman's son. My first line of duty line of duty death experience was in 1979. I was 6 years old. Um, I mean, I've been in policing. You go ahead, say whatever you want, but I've been around it, and I knew what it was all about from the time I was 6.
Yeah.
Um, my my career's been great. I mean, it's had some bad things to it, but man, it's got me where I am today. And one of the things I'll tell people is so I told people, when I talk, I was like, look, I spent 22 years with PTSD, and I've had people come up to me afterwards, and they're like, what do you feel like knowing that you wasted 22 years of your life? And I kind of sometimes I'll kind of bristle a little bit, and I was like, dude, that wasn't wasted years. And I'll tell you this, I'll go back in a time machine and do those 22 years over to get where I am today. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. It wasn't wasted years. I would never be the person I am today if I hadn't suffered for 22 years. And the stuff that I've been able to do for other people, I would do that 22 year suffering again. No doubt. I wouldn't even think twice. So, I mean, I mean, you can tell, dude, I'm extremely passionate about this.
I can
This
tell.
means the world to me.
So you got another 30 working years. You'll probably spend them somehow around wellness, right?
That's the plan.
Yeah. If someone wants to reach out to you, how could they find you? What's the best way to? Because you have a
Uh,
really common name.
yeah, I do.
That's a good thing.
Well, my email is pretty easy. It's my favorite motorcycle racer of all time. It's Hayden, Hayd, as in David, En, 691 at yahoo.com. Or I don't care. Somebody call my cell phone number.
No, we're not gonna put your cell phone out there.
Okay.
Just
All
your
right.
email. Just your email, brother.
Yeah,
So it's Hayden691 at yahoo.com.
correct.
All right,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, we'll just put your email out there.
Okay.
We'll keep the cell phone just for me.
All right. That's good.
If anyone reaches out to me and they want your cell phone, then I'll pass it on.
Yeah.
But I just have 5 last questions for you.
Okay.
What's your definition of a hero?
Anybody that sacrifices themselves for the benefit of others and doesn't seek recognition for it.
I agree with that. When stress is starting to bubble up for you, how do you save yourself from the breaking point? You kind of you touched on this already.
Yeah, so what I have learned, and it's like another thing like I would have never thought was a real thing. I do breathing exercises, and it's amazing how much that can get you right. You know, it doesn't matter where you are. You just start to breathe, and then everything starts to come together. And then you start, like I use CBT stuff, the cognitive behavioral therapy, and I start looking at things rationally, and I'll kind of run that through my brain, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, yeah, this situation sucks, but there's nothing I can do to change it. And that's another thing I learned from an awesome therapist was she looked at me and she said, Chris, you do realize it's okay for things to suck, right? And it was like an epiphany. I was like, really? And then I realized, yeah, it is okay for things to suck. You know, you
I
can't
grew
fix
up
everything.
I grew up with the Serenity Prayer on my mother's wall in the living room. So I grew up with that prayer, and I always remembered the wisdom to know the difference of the things that I cannot change. So I grew up with that, and I've always had that in the back of my head. Just give me the courage to change the things that I can and the wisdom to know the things that I can't.
That's very uh, appropriate for our profession.
Yes, sir. Pray for wisdom. Don't pray for wealth, pray for wisdom, because if
Right.
you're giving a bunch of money and you don't have any wisdom,
Yeah.
you're just gonna be another fool who's just gonna get. That's why you can't. I don't get political with things, but you can't spread around. You can't take wealth from wealthy people and just give it to, because they're just going to waste it, and the wealthy people will have it again.
Right.
I don't get political, but that's my little.
I'm with you, man, because I've had some fantastic discussions with people that are all over the spectrum with politics, and if it starts feeling like we're kind of got a vibe going, I'll say, look, let's just stay away from politics,
Yeah.
because man, we can be great friends, but that is such a divisive thing.
Yes,
And
it is.
I don't play that. You know, that's not how I do things. Like I want to know what you are as a person. I don't care about your politics.
So, what do you need? Right? Do you need more speaking engagements, or what do you need?
That would help.
Like,
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, opportunity. Um, you know, I need reps.
yeah.
You know,
Me too.
but
I'm right there with you. Me too.
yeah,
Yeah, reps definitely make you feel more comfortable, and watching it back. So if you get it recorded, you watch it back, and you have somebody who's a professional watch it and say, "Oh, you could have added in a little humor right here, or you could have paused a little bit more there." That is how you get better. It really does come down to reps. So if I can help you get more reps, that's something that I'm gonna work on. What's your greatest power? What's your strength, your best ability?
Tenacity. I will grind myself in the ground to get success. And I'd say that because like when I started learning how to race flat track motorcycles, I would do like literally thousands of laps, and I would record them with my phone, and I would analyze every lap. I gotta get faster. I gotta get better. I was my own worst critic. And then when I started seeing success, all of that paid off. And then
Yeah,
guess what? Now we're gonna take it to the next level. And it's nowhere. I'm not backing down, And I've raced against some guys that were fantastic riders. And when I start approaching their level, man, it's a huge rush, And I admire those guys. And that's like one of the things from when I first started road racing to when I started riding flat track. When I road raced, I wasn't happy with it.
what
At
is
first,
what is flat track? What does that mean?
so it's a circle
Is
dirt
it is
track.
it dirt? Is it dirt
It is
though?
hard packed dirt.
Okay.
Like in Ohio, we have a cushion track, which is pea gravel, but I haven't ridden any of those yet. But I race on usually it's a clay oval, and we don't have any front brakes, just rear brakes, and you steer the bike with the rear end. So when you're going around the corner to get the bike to turn, you get it on the gas and step the rear end out. So there's a whole lot going on at one time, and it's a whole lot to learn. And like I said before, it was really similar to rebuilding myself because I had to learn a new way. Like I have this objective, and I have to master this. And how do I do this? And it was trial and error, just like rebuilding yourself. Like I can't use that old way of thinking. Like this is new. And then I would revert to a style I used for road racing. And I was like, this is not working. So let's try this. And then I'd implement that. And then I would have success. And it was a building process. And it was
I love
just,
that analogy. That's a really, really good analogy. And if you didn't write that one down, you should write that one down because that's a really, really good one.
okay. I appreciate it.
Um, just for fun, if you had a comic book superpower, what would it be and why?
I'd be Wolverine. And I'll tell you, so I had a guy that I work with. I love this guy. He would see me bounce back from injuries. Number one, because I'm stubborn, and number two, whenever I get hurt, I couldn't stand being broken. So I'd work so hard to get back where I needed to be. And sometimes I wasn't really 100%, but I was going to get there. And he would look at me after like knee reconstructions. He's like, "What are you doing back already?" I was like, "I'm not stopping for anybody, man. I'm good." And man, I put in the work and I would pay the price for it. I'd be sore as can be. But he always told me, he's like, "You heal so fast, you're like Wolverine." And I was like, I want to be, what is it, adamantium? I want to have,
Adamantium skeleton and
yeah,
healing ability.
yeah, I'd take that all day long, man, because then I can live forever. I can crash as many motorcycles as I want.
It's funny that you mentioned Wolverine because the X-Men is a huge influence on me, and I want Doctor Xavier's skills and Jean Grey's skills combined. I want all of the skills of the mind,
Yeah,
all the mental skills. So I want to be able to lift things with my mind. I want to be able to touch people with my mind, and like put on the helmet and find other people that are powerful, and just like not necessarily put thoughts in other people's minds, but be able to tap into other people's minds
and
and
you could,
calm people too.
yeah. I mean, you could change their lives by that. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. Think
Yes, it
about
could
how
be
you
for
could
good.
think about if you got somebody that was on the side of a bridge ready to jump, and you could
Yes,
put that in their brain, like, man, this is not worth it. Life's worth living. People care about me. People still love me. There's
yes.
people to help me. And then all of a sudden, the guy's like, yeah, it's a bad idea. Let's get off this bridge.
I always feel a little ambiguous about saying that I want to tap into people's minds, but like you said, it is for good, and I know that I'd be a good guy with my abilities. I wouldn't be a villain.
I know that. First time I talked to you, I was like, this is a guy I'm gonna get along with well. This is a good man.
I appreciate that, brother. And I always give everyone their roses before they die. And I just want to thank you for coming onto the show and doing the work that you do and being so vulnerable and willing to tell your story. There's someone that's going to listen to this. Was a very powerful episode, by the way. And there's someone that's going to listen to this and they're going to be like, I relate to that guy. And I'm grateful that I listened to that. And I know that for a fact. And I just want to say thank you so much. I appreciate you. And we will talk again. All right, family. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Everyone I interview, I've chosen for you guys because of their story. And I hope that you get some value every single time. If you did get value or just simply enjoyed the episode, please share the episode with someone that you know. If you know of a guest, a frontline hero that has an amazing story, something uplifting or a positive message, hit me up in the contact form of www.davidleith.com or DM me at Instagram at davidleith1. Subscribe to the show because I have some really phenomenal guests coming up in the next few weeks that you definitely don't want to miss. All right, one.